Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Now, on this final episode of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we go back to June 30th, 1954. Let's see, that would be 69 years ago, for an episode of Theatre Royal starring Sir Ralph Richardson, and the episode is entitled My Uncle Toby.
The National Broadcasting Company present, transcribed, Sir Ralph Richardson in Theatre Royal.
This is Ralph Richardson. This week we turn to Laurence Sterne's famous novel, Tristram Shandy. The literature of England is rich in lovable eccentrics, but none more lovable, if not more eccentric, than Laurence Sterne's Uncle Toby. Most of us are familiar with the old soldier who lives again in memory the battles and sieges of his earlier days, and such was Tristram Shandy's Uncle Toby, a veteran of the campaigns of Marlborough, 200 and more years ago. I myself will play the role of Toby, and James McKechnie, as Tristram, will relate these scenes from Tristram Shandy, which we have called My Uncle Toby.
I verily believe that a man might walk from Dan to Beersheba, were he in the walking mood, ere he met up with a worthier or more amiable man than my Uncle Toby. And though my uncle may have taken upon him to ride somewhat upon his hobby horse, can I think any the less of him for that? Nay, if it come to that, sir, have not the wisest men in all ages, not excepting Solomon himself, have they not had their hobby horses too? It had been my Uncle Toby's fortune to serve his king, not without honor, in the late wars in Flanders. And it was only by reason of the wound in his groin that he received at the siege of Namur, rendering him unfit for further service, that my Uncle Toby became possessed of his hobby horse at all. For, back in London, the wound confined him 4 years to his bed.
Come in, brother. I'm not asleep.
I met with a friend of ours in the street, brother, and he inquired how you did. I took the liberty of inviting him up to see for himself.
Why, sir, you are heartily welcome. Come in, I pray.
I'm happy to find you so cheerful, sir. Your brother gave me sad news of your wound.
Oh, well, a man must bear cheerfully what the Lord sends him. At least my wound has brought me the leisure to peruse my studies.
And what might those be, Captain Shandy? Philosophy?
Oh, I leave philosophy to my brother, sir. No, I've been engaged upon the study of projectiles and fortification, which are, of all the studies we know, perhaps the most generally neglected.
That I can well believe.
But none the less interesting for that. Indeed, I find much in the study to console me. Until Tartaglia proved to the contrary, I had honestly believed that the cannonball which did me this mischief had followed a right line.
Was it a cannonball which gave you your wound, then?
It was a coping stone broke off by a cannonball from the parapet of a hall work before the gate of St. Nicholas, in one of the traverses of a trench opposite to the salient angle of the demi-bastion of St. Roch at Namur.
And this was at the siege of Namur, Captain Shandy?
If you'll do me the kindness to reach me the map there on the table behind you, I can make the whole thing plain to you. Now, as you can plainly see, before the gate of St. Nicholas, which lies here, the counterscarp, which extends itself from the bank of the Mars, quite up the great water stop, lies over ground which is cut and cross-cut with a multitude of dykes.
To speak the truth, unless the company my father led upstairs were tolerably clear-headed, it was a difficult thing for my Uncle Toby, do what he could, to keep the discourse free from obscurity. Even with a map to aid him, it was not always possible for him to find his way among so many obstacles. Often enough, he would get so sadly bewildered and set fast among them that he could get neither backwards or forwards to save his life, and was oft times obliged to give up the attempt upon that very account. This fact could scarcely be lost upon his servant, Corporal Trim, who waited upon him and served him with great fidelity and affection.
If I durst presume to give your honor my advice and speak my opinion in this matter...
Thou art welcome, Trim. Speak what thou thinkest upon the subject, man, without fear.
Why then, I think, with humble submission to your honor's better judgment, that these ravelins, bastions, curtains, and hornworks make but a poor, contemptible, fiddle-faddle piece of it here upon paper, compared to what your honor and I could make of it were we in the country by ourselves, and had but a rood and a half of ground to do what we pleased with.
Oh. Well, there's my house in Yorkshire, Trim, with a bowling green at the bottom of the garden.
Well then, as summer is coming on, your honor might sit out of doors and give me the nography.
No, you must call it the ichthnography, Trim.
The ichthnography of the town or citadel, either of Namur or any other your honor was pleased to sit down before, and I'll be shot by your honor upon the glacé of it if I did not fortify it to your honor's mind.
I dare say thou wouldst, Trim.
For if your honor could but mark me the polygon with its exact lines and angles...
That I could do very well.
I will begin with the fosse. And if your honor could tell me the proper depth and breadth...
I can to a hair's breadth.
I would throw out the earth upon this hand towards the town for the scarp, and on that hand towards the campaign for the counterscarp.
Very right, Trim.
And when I had sloped them to your mind, and please your honour, I would face the glacé with sods, as are the finest fortification in all Flanders.
The best engineers call them gazons, Trim.
Oh, your honour understands these matters better than any officer in his majesty's service. Now let us but go into the country. I would work under your honour's directions like a horse, and make fortifications that it would be worth all the world's riding 20 miles to see them.
Say no more, Trim.
Besides, your honour would get not only pleasure and good pastime, but good air and good exercise and good health. And your honour's wound would be well in a month.
Thou hast said enough, Trim. I like thy project mightily.
And if your honour pleases, I'll this moment go and buy a pioneer spade to take down with us, and I'll bespeak a shovel and a pickaxe and a cup.
Say no more, Trim. There's a guinea for thee. There's a guinea. Go down, my lad. Bring my supper up this instant. We shall set out for the country within the week.
Never did lover post down to a beloved mistress with more heat and expectation than my Uncle Toby did, to enjoy this wondrous plan within the privacy of his bowling green, which lay beyond a yew tree hedge at the bottom of the garden beside his little cottage in Yorkshire. And so it was that his wound was healed, and he exchanged his bed of suffering for the most rewarding of hobby horses. And so long as a man rides a hobby horse peaceably and quietly along the King's Highway, and neither compels you nor me to get up behind him, pray, sir, what have either you or I to do with it?
I think thou hast better sharpen the salience a trifle, Trim, and level it off at the foot of the glacis.
As your honour says.
I wonder, Trim, whether you've not made the breach an inch too narrow by yesterday's account of the matter.
Yeah, I was wondering much the same thing, your honour. Have I your honour's permission to widen it by an inch?
I wouldn't for the world, Trim, have thee think that I set too favourable a construction on the account. But if a line be fairly drawn from the centre of the ravelin to the northern end of the bastion, as the Gazette directs that it should be drawn...
Your honour is in the right.
Then let us not lag behind his grace, Trim. Widen the breach by a single inch, and the matter is set to rights.
As your honour says. Does your honour think that the town will fall by the end of the week?
I have a premonition that it will do so, Trim, just as Amberg, Bonn, Rheinberg, and Huey fell before it. but the post will be in by the dinner hour.
With submission to your honour, if we should have the carpenter build us a little model of a town, to be run up together of slit deals and then painted, and we clapped it within the interior polygon.
Built exactly after the pattern of those in Flanders, Trim.
With grated windows and the gable ends of the houses facing the streets.
Only not to have the houses run up together, Trim, but to have every house independent, to hook on or off, so as to form into a plan of whatever town we please.
Your honour has hit the nail on the head.
Then run and fetch me the carpenter, Trim. We've no time to lose. Oh, but stay. Here comes the Gazette from the post office.
Good day to your honour.
Good day to you, Susanna. Wait, Trim, wait till I've read the dispatch. Trim, take thy mattock. Batter down the face of the West Bastion.
Right, your honour. 'Tis done, your honour. E'en as your honour supposed last night.
Give me the colours, Trim. Help me up onto the ramparts. By heaven, the town has fallen.
My father was a philosopher in grain, speculative, systematical. For the character of my Uncle Toby, he had nothing but the warmest and fondest affection, but for my Uncle Toby's hobby horse, he had no real respect. The contrariety of their humours, in fact, was occasionally the source of a fraternal squabble.
From what you tell me, brother, the noble science of fortification has its weak side as well as others.
You're right, brother, but when a ravelin stands before a curtain, it is a ravelin. But when a ravelin stands before a bastion, then the ravelin is not a ravelin, it is a half-moon.
Brother Toby, you would provoke a saint. There was I trying to explain to you a matter of the gravest import. And here have you got us, I know not how, soused into the middle of the old subject again. I wish the whole science of fortification with all its inventors at the devil. It's been the death of thousands, and it'll be mine in the end. I would not, Brother Toby, have my brain so full of saps, mines, blinds, gabions, palisados, ravelins, half-moons, and such trumpery to be proprietor of Namur and of all the towns of Flanders with it.
I need not tell the listener that a man's hobby horse is as tender a part as he has about him. But my Uncle Toby was a man patient of injuries. Pray, sir, what said he? How did he behave? Oh, sir, it was great. He merely looked up at my father with a countenance spread over with so much good nature, so placid, so fraternal, that my father was touched to the heart.
Brother Toby, I beg thy pardon. Forgive, I pray thee, this rash humour which my mother gave me.
My dear brother, thou art heartily welcome to it, had it been 10 times as much, brother.
But it's ungenerous to hurt any man. A brother worse, but to hurt a brother of such gentle manners, so unprovoking and so unresenting, it's base. By heaven, it's cowardly.
You are heartily welcome, brother, had it been 50 times as much.
Besides, what have I to do, my dear Toby, either with your amusements or your pleasures, unless it was in my power, which is not, to increase their measure?
Brother Shandy, you are much mistaken on this point, for you do increase my pleasure very much in begetting children for the Shandy family at your time of life.
Oh, it's not worth talking of.
In a moment, we continue Theatre Royal, starring Sir Ralph Richardson.
June 30th, 1954, Theatre Royal on Classic Radio Theatre with Wyatt Cox. Like the lives of Harry Lime and the Black Museum, Theatre Royal was produced by Harry Allen Towers over in London. Limited information on the people who produced the show are available. We do know that the show starred in alternating seasons, I should say, Sir Ralph Richardson and also a gentleman whom we're not hearing in this episode, Sir Laurence Olivier. June 30th, 1954, 69 years ago, Theatre Royal.
The time has now arrived when I must begin the story of my Uncle Toby's amours. For having given a picture of that bowling green wherein my Uncle Toby's campaigns were fought, I must acquaint you that it lay cheek by jowl with the garden of a house next door. And it was in that self-same house that the widow Wadman lived. Now, just as my Uncle Toby had set his heart upon the conquest of all Flanders, so had the widow Wadman set her heart upon the conquest of my Uncle Toby. Only occasion was wanting, and occasion came one day upon the conclusion of the peace and the signing of the Treaty of Utrecht. It was a sad day for my Uncle Toby when the terms of the Treaty of Utrecht were made public, and the whole fortifications and harbour of Dunkirk had to be demolished according to stipulation. For after then, what would be left round which a mettlesome hobby horse could lead him?
Shall I begin the demolitions by making a breach in the ramparts, Your Honor?
Nay, that will never do, Corporal. For in going that way to work in the town, the English garrison will not be safe in it for an hour. Because if the French were treacherous...
Oh, they are as treacherous as devils, and please, Your Honor.
It gives me concern always when I hear it, Trim, for they don't want personal bravery. But if a breach is made in the ramparts, they may enter it and make themselves masters of the place when they please.
Well, let them enter it, and please, Your Honor, if they dare.
In cases like this, Trim, it's no part of the consideration of the commandant what the enemy dare or what they dare not do. He must act with prudence. Now, we'll begin with the outworks, both towards the sea and the land, and particularly with Fort Louis, the most distant of them all, and we'll demolish it first. And then the rest, one by one, both on our right and as our left, as we retreat towards the town. Then we'll demolish the mole, next fill up the harbour, then retire into the citadel and blow it up in the air. And having done that, Corporal, we'll embark for England.
We're there already, Your Honor.
Very true, Trim. For yonder I see the spire of our village church.
Ever since Your Honor first read me the terms of the stipulation, I have never once whistled or sung or laughed or cried or talked of past done deeds or told Your Honor one story, good or bad.
Thou hast many excellencies, Trim, and I hold it not the least of them, as thou happens to be a storyteller, that of the number thou hast told me, either to amuse me in my painful hours or to divert me in my grave ones, thou hast seldom told me a bad one.
Because, and please Your Honor, except one of a king of Bohemia and his 7 castles, they're all true, for they're about myself.
I don't like the subject the worst, Trim, on that score. But prithee, what is this story? Thou hast excited my curiosity.
I'll tell it to Your Honor directly.
Provided, Trim, provided it's not a merry one. Not today.
Oh, it is not a merry one by any means, Your Honor.
I have it altogether, a grave one.
Well, it is neither the one nor the other, but will suit Your Honor exactly.
Then I'll thank thee for it with all my heart. So prithee, begin it, Trim.
The story of the King of Bohemia and his 7 castles. Now, there was a certain King of Bohemia...
Oh, don't leave off thy cap, Trim. The sun's too hot upon thy head.
Oh, 'twas out of respect, Your Honor.
Oh, well, then put it on, Trim. I know thou hast an honest nature.
Oh, God bless thy honor. There was a certain King of Bohemia, but in whose reign, except his own, I'm not able to inform Your Honor.
I don't desire thee of it, Trim. By any means, I wouldn't give thee a halfpenny for it.
Well, only in it, please Your Honor, it makes a story look better in the face.
Well, then take any date out of the whole world thou choosest, Trim. Thou art heartily welcome.
Your Honor. Now, in the year of our Lord, 1712, there was, and it please Your Honor...
Oh, nay, Trim, no, I'll tell thee truly, any other date would have pleased me better on account of the sad stain upon our history that year in marching off our troops and refusing to cover the siege of Quesnoy. Oh. Therefore, I would advise thee that if ever thou tellest that story again...
If I live, and please Your Honor, but once to get through the story, I never will tell it again.
Oh, tut, Trim, begin again.
Yeah, well... there was, and please Your Honor, a certain unfortunate King of Bohemia.
Was he unfortunate, then?
The King of Bohemia, and please Your Honor, was unfortunate in this, that being fond of navigation, and there happening throughout the whole of the Kingdom of Bohemia to be no seaport town whatever...
But how the deuce should it be, Trim? For Bohemia being totally inland, it could have happened no otherwise.
Your Honor is in the right. Now, the King of Bohemia, with his queen and the courtiers, happening one fine summer's evening to walk out...
There's that word, happening. Oh, it's so right, Trim. For the King of Bohemia and his queen might have walked out, or they might have let it alone.
Good King William was of an opinion, and please your honour, that everything was predestined for us in this world, insomuch as he would often say to his soldiers that every bullet had its billet.
Oh, he was a great man, Trim.
And I believe to this day that the shot which wounded me in the knee at Landen did so for no other purpose than to take me out of King William's service and place me in your honours.
It shall never be construed otherwise, Trim.
June 30th, 1954, Theatre Royal on Classic Radio Theatre with Wyatt Cox. Just going to take a minute here to tell you about the big savings going on now, the clearance sale at mypillow.com. And you know, I've talked about how in my office I have a pair of my slippers, and they're really comfortable, and they're on clearance right now. The mypillow.com slippers, $25 a pair, limit 10. And I would buy 3 or 4 more pairs. Unfortunately, they're out of my size. They also have sheets, pillowcases, clothing items, all on special right now. Go to mypillow.com, click on the clearance tab at the top of the page, use my promo code Wyatt, or call 1-800-928-4715. Limited sizes remaining in the MyPillow slippers, limited colors on other items. mypillow.com, clearance tab, promo code Wyatt, 1-800-928-4715. Now on Classic Radio Theatre with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of Theatre Royal, My Uncle Toby, June 30th, 1954.
What was the truth about the King of Bohemia and his 7 castles, we shall never know, because my Uncle Toby sent Trim upon an errand before he could ever explain the matter. But the corporal had had a larger audience for his tale than he supposed, for listening to him behind the hedge was the widow Wadman. And no sooner had Trim retired from the field than the widow Wadman advanced upon it. Nor was it Dunkirk against which her batteries were to be turned. The defences that she sought to demolish were my Uncle Toby's.
Oh, Captain Shandy, how fortunate to find you here.
Your servant, ma'am.
I'm half distracted, Captain Shandy. A mote or sand or something, I know not what, has got into this eye of mine. Do look into it. It is not in the white.
Why, ma'am, upon my honour,
Perhaps if I were to squeeze into the sentry box with you and sit down, you might be able more easily to see it.
But I protest, ma'am, I can see nothing whatever in your eye.
Nothing, Captain Shandy? Oh, but it is not in the white.
But, madam, I can see nothing there at all.
Nothing? Captain Shandy.
Now, of all the eyes that were ever created, there never was an eye among them all so fitted to rob my Uncle Toby of his repose as the very eye at which he was looking. 'Twas an eye full of gentle salutations and soft responses, speaking not like the trumpet, but whispering soft like the last low accent of an expiring saint. How can you live comfortless, Captain Shandy, and alone, without a bosom to lean your head on, or trust your cares unto? It was an eye that... but I shall be in love with it myself if I say another word about it. It did my Uncle Toby's business.
In love? But your honour was very well the day before yesterday, when I was telling your honour the story of the King of Bohemia and his 7 castles.
The King of Bohemia? What became of that story, Trim?
We lost it, and please your honour. But your honour was as free from love then as I am.
It was just while they went off with the wheelbarrow, Trim.
But who, and please you, is your honor in love with?
With Mistress Wadman, Trim. She's left a bullet here in my breast.
Well, why, and please your honor, she can no more stand a siege than she can fly.
But as we are neighbors, Trim, the best way, I think, is to let her know of it civilly first.
Now, if I might presume to differ from your honor...
Why else should I talk to thee, Trim?
Then I would begin, and please your honor, with making a good thundering attack upon her in return, and telling her civilly afterwards. For if she knows anything of your honor's being in love beforehand...
Lord help her. She knows no more at present, Trim, than a child unborn.
Precious souls. The widow Wadman had told it with all its circumstances to Mistress Bridget 24 hours before. Bridget had told it over the garden wall to Susanna, who had in turn told it to my mother, who told my father, while Obadiah had spread the whole of it throughout the village. In fact, the last in the whole parish to know about it was my Uncle Toby himself. And so, in due time, the attack was launched. Corporal Trim had arrayed himself in his regimentals. A whiff of military pride had puffed out his shirt at the wrist, and from it, by a tassel, hung the corporal's stick. My Uncle Toby carried his cane like a pike.
Captain Shandy to see you, madam.
Why, Captain, what a surprise, I declare. Pray sit down.
Madam, I am in love. With you, madam.
Yes, Captain Shandy. The cares and disquietudes of the marriage state are very great.
I suppose so, madam. I suppose so.
And therefore, when a person is so much at ease as you are, Captain Shandy, so happy in yourself, your friends, and your amusements, I wonder what reasons can incline him to the state.
They are written in the common prayer book.
I often think of the pain that you must have suffered from your wound, Captain Shandy. It was in the wars you received it, I believe.
At Namur, madam. It was from a coping stone, broke off by a cannonball, from the parapet of a hornwork, before the gate of St. Nicholas.
A coping stone? Oh, it must have been very painful. And whereabouts exactly did you receive this sad blow, Captain Shandy?
You shall see the very place, madam.
Oh, Captain Shandy, but are you, do you...
I'll show you the very place, madam.
Oh...
Trim!
Your honor.
Mistress Wadman desires to see the place where I received my wound. Bring me my map of Namur.
Dear Uncle Toby, what was thy final understanding of the sex? What was the final outcome of thy passion? Whether thou fell'st a victim to the sweet, bright eyes of a woman who had withstood so staunchly the fury of foot, horse, and artillery, that is a story we shall never know. For it is just another story of the King of Bohemia and his 7 castles. One thing alone is certain, that thy benignant shade still haunts a bowling green in England, and that thy shade is accompanied, as was thy cheerful figure in life, by an ever faithful, ever loving Trim.
June 30th, 1954, Theatre Royal on Classic Radio Theatre with Wyatt Cox. Since we're not going to be here for Farm Safety Week here on Classic Radio Theatre with Wyatt Cox, an episode of Lum and Abner from July 1947 entitled Accidentally Yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, National Farm Safety Week, as proclaimed by President Truman, is being observed this year from July 20th to July 26th. The National Safety Council, therefore, invites you to join Lum and Abner for a transcribed visit to the Jot 'em Down store in Pine Ridge, Arkansas.
That's our ring. Just a minute, Abner. I better answer it.
Well, wait a minute. Let me get down off this ladder first, Lum. It'll slip out from under me if you let go of it.
No, it won't. I don't think.
Well, I ain't gonna take no chances. I'm getting down from here.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Well, you wouldn't even get up on the ladder in the first place. Now, don't let go of it, Lum.
I ain't. And as long as you're getting down, you might as well answer the phone yourself.
All right. You can be putting up the poster while I'm doing this.
I'll just wait.
Hello, jot 'em down, store. Abner Peabody doing the talking. Oh, hello, Elizabeth.
Oh, her.
No, I ain't awful busy. Just putting up a poster telling all about the National Farm Safety Week. Come from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. You did? Oh, well, that's a shame. How did it happen? Well, Elizabeth, I've told you to watch that with that young span of mules. Yeah, sure, I'll bring some home this noon. All right, honey. You just take it easy now. You can sit down to chop your wood. All right. Goodbye.
What happened?
Oh, Elizabeth hurt herself again. Cut her ankle on that hand plow I give her for her birthday.
How'd she do that?
Why, she got to going too fast through that new ground there and got ahead of the plow. Don't know how many times I warned her about taking them long steps.
Well, that's a shame. She hurt herself bad?
Yeah, she said that she cut her ankle up pretty good in there. She wants me to be sure and bring her home a jar of paste. Don't let me forget that neither, Lum.
Jar of paste?
Yeah.
She don't aim to paste her foot back to her ankle, does she?
Huh?
That ain't gonna do her ankle no good. That's plumb silly.
Well, she don't want it for her ankle. Doc Miller's been out there and bandages that up for her. She wants to paste some new recipes in her cookbook. She always does that when she gets laid up that way. I don't know why she can't read after she puts them in there. She's just a pinch cook anyway, but she loves to look at the pictures and then try to make stuff that looks like it. No telling what you get over there.
Well, you generally get cold, coon, and collards, don't you?
Well, we do in season, yeah, but we can't eat that all year round, you know.
Well, come on, we got to get this poster put up.
Sometimes we'll just have collards. Yeah.
Besides, if we'd have had this up before, she might not have had that accident.
Well, I don't see how that would have did any good. She's got to do the plowing, Lum, whether we put the poster up or not. We got to eat.
I know that, but the idea is if we can get folks to thinking about this, trying to be more careful, why there won't be so many accidents. Do you know that on farms there's an average of 2 people killed every hour? And 205 injured?
There is?
Yes, sir.
Well, I do know.
The National Safety Council has figures to prove it.
Well, I dogged, I'm glad I'm a city feller then.
Yeah, but your woman's a farmer, don't forget that.
Well, yeah.
And look at all the accidents she's always having.
Yeah, bless her heart. Bless her heart.
Hitting herself with a chopping axe and I don't know what all.
Dad blame. It's my fault, you might say.
Your fault?
Yeah, I'm just too good to her. Keep buying her all them nice little pretties that way. That newfangled plow, shiny, sharp axe. Guess I ought to read that farm safety poster myself. Even if I am a city feller, I can read it.
Yeah, well, what you better do is help me get this poster up on Farm Safety Week will be over.
Yeah, let's get that.
Come on, take the hammer and get back up on the ladder again.
Well, why don't you get up there this time, Lum?
No, you're littler and the ladder's pretty heavy. Easier for me to hold it. I'm just thinking about you, all. You know that, Corey. Hurry up, Ed.
Yeah, all right. You sure now this is the best place to put this poster, Lum?
Yeah, I figure if we put it right up over the door that way, it'll be the last thing a body sees when he goes out of the store, and he'll think about it all the way home.
Yeah, that's a good idea, I reckon.
You don't get to studying about it too hard and stumble on something.
Yeah, hold it steady now, Lum.
I'm holding it.
Yeah, see now, where do you want it now? About right here?
Yeah, that's good.
Right here.
No, you've got it a little crooked there. Better move it up on the right-hand side some.
Oh.
On the right-hand side, I said.
Oh, I see.
No, that's too much.
Hey, watch it,
Hey, wait a minute, Cedric.
Hey.
Cedric, got a ladder up here and you can't get in. Well, I want to come in. It's important. Well, just a minute then. Hold the door, Cedric. Come on down, Abner.
All right. Why can't he come back?
Well, he says it's important. Don't step on my fingers.
Oh, excuse me.
All right. Help me tip the ladder back this way.
Come on now.
All right, Cedric, you can come in now.
Yes, Mom.
Now, what was it you wanted, Cedric?
Mom?
What is it you wanted that's so important?
Oh, I just want to know what you fellas are doing.
Huh?
I seen you had a ladder up there, and I wondered what in the heck you was doing.
Is that all you wanted? I don't get Cedric all to
Abner,
take
watch it. Be more careful with that hammer. Don't forget, this is safety week.
Well, it ain't gonna be for Cedric if he keeps on doing things like that.
Well, just calm yourself down. We don't want to have no accidents today of all days.
Well, can I ask you just one question?
Oh, go ahead.
You sure you won't get mad at me now?
I told you to go ahead.
Well,
Go on, ask your question.
Yes, Mom. What are you fellers doing?
What are we doing?
Abner, I told you to take it easy with that hammer. I'll tell you what we're doing, Cedric. We're joining up in a campaign to cut down farm accidents. The National Safety Council says there's a way yonder too many deaths and injuries on our farms. And a lot of them could be prevented if folks would just stop and think a little bit and learn more about the machinery they're using, keep young'uns away from machinery and all that.
Now, do you know, Cedric?
Yes, Mom.
Good. All right, Mom. Grab hold of the ladder and I'll get up there and nail up this poster then.
Yeah, all right.
Putting up a poster, huh?
Yeah.
What's it for?
Well, just what we've been telling you
Hey,
about.
Lum, don't shake the ladder.
Yeah, I can read the sign now. That's what it's about, all right. Well, long as I know, I guess I better be going. So long.
Hey, Cedric, look out. Don't open that door,
Wait, Cedric, wait, you'll knock the ladder over.
Well, I've got to get to school. I'm late now.
Well, you can just wait a minute, Cedric.
No, I can't. Just recollected this. A minute lost can't never be regained. If I don't get there on time today, I have to stay after school and write that on the blackboard 500 times.
Well, just a minute then. Come on down, Abner.
Oh, for the land's sakes.
Abner, I wish you'd stop stepping on my finger.
Well, I'm sorry.
Look at my knuckles.
Yeah.
My hand swole up to where it looks like I'm holding a bunch of bananas. Help me tip the ladder back.
Yeah.
Can you get the door open now, Cedric?
Oh, yes, Mom. I'll tell all my little chums about being careful around farm machineries. So long.
So long.
All right, Abner, back up the ladder.
Doggy, you need a mountain goat for this job, Lum.
Here, don't forget the hammer.
Yeah, hand it up to me.
Now, try to get it up without so much confusion.
Well, it ain't my fault. Now, how's this? This about where you want the poster?
Yeah, that's just exactly right. Nail it tight.
Hey, watch out!
Wait, just a minute, Ben. Wait, Ben, don't open the door. Abner, you better come down. He ain't never going to hear us. Just a second, Ben. Out, Abner. Watch what you're stepping on there.
Oh, excuse me.
Help me tilt the ladder back.
All right.
All right, Ben, come on in.
For goodness, what's going on in here anyway?
Oh, we're putting up a poster from the United States Government Department of Agriculture.
Ooh, that's nice.
This is National Farm Safety Week.
Oh, yes, I know all about that. Would have made it a month. The idea is to help farm families recognize the hazards that menace their lives at home and at work, and tell them how they can eliminate as many of them hazards as possible.
Yeah, that's the idea. All
And furthermore, Lum, it's designed...
Well, you don't need to tell us about it, Ben. See, we're helping out with the campaign.
Oh?
Fact is, we got a letter direct from the United States Secretary of Agriculture, Mr. Clinton P. Anderson.
Who?
Clinton P. Anderson.
Oh, yes, a nice fellow.
All right, Abner, back up the ladder.
No, good Lum, I believe I'm just too tired to climb up that ladder one more time.
Well, here. I'll get up there then. Hand me the hammer.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Hold the ladder.
Yeah, I got it. Say, why don't you nail the poster right up over the door there? That's what we're... Oh, Lum, watch where you're stepping.
Oh, excuse me. Maybe that'll give you a rough idea what I've been going through.
Hand sold up there looks like it's breathing. Look at it go up and down that way. Dog it.
Yeah, I ought to got up here and did this myself in the first place. Saved all this monkeying around. Only way to get a thing did right is to do it yourself.
Hold it. Wait a minute, Grandpap. Hold it. Wait a minute. Wait, you can't come in now, Grandpap.
Who says I can't come in?
Grandpap, cut that out now. Get
Don't
away
let him
from
do
it.
that. Hold the ladder.
Yeah,
Help.
Lum, I got your foot. Lum, what? Oh, my goodness. Are you hurt, Lum?
What in the tarnation's going on in here, anyhow?
Lum, are you all right?
Oh.
How's that?
Oh, my head.
I better get him a dipper of water.
What's Lum doing down there on the floor?
You knocked him down there when you shoved open that door. He was up there on top of that ladder.
Well, what was he doing up on a pigeon-toed ladder?
He was nailing up a poster telling folks how to avoid having accidents. This is National Farm Safety Week.
Thank you, Lum and Abner, for a very entertaining treatment of a very serious question. Friends, you probably don't realize it, but while you were listening to Lum and Abner's transcribed troubles in putting up a Farm Safety Week poster, more than 50 farm residents were injured in accidents. Before the day is over, nearly 5,000 other farm residents will have been injured and 52 will have died as a result of accidents. National Safety Council estimates show that 1 out of every 10 farmers will suffer a disabling injury either on or off the job in 1947 unless extra precautions are taken. 1 out of every 350 farm families will suffer the pain and sorrow which accompany accidental deaths in 1947 unless extra precautions are taken. 4 farm buildings will be destroyed by fire every hour during 1947 unless extra precautions are taken. These are some of the reasons why President Truman has issued a proclamation calling upon farm people everywhere to set aside a specific time during National Farm Safety Week for family discussions of methods for the prevention of accidents. Farm safety is particularly a family affair because, unlike the urban dweller, the family is closely associated with the actual operations of farming. And since this is true, every member of the family needs to know 3 things. 1, what hazards menace their lives at home, at work, and on the highway. 2, what each member of the family can do to eliminate as many of these hazards as possible. 3, that carelessness on the part of the family perils the lives and happiness of all. So friends, let's all do everything we can to prevent accidents. Let's drive safely, work safely, and make our homes as safe as they can be. Let's take extra precautions instead of taking chances. Let's make farm safety a family affair, and thus help end the kind of accidents that injure nearly 2 million farm residents each year. The kind of accidents that send 16,000 to 18,000 farm residents to the cemetery each year. As President Truman says, caution and intelligent effort on the part of every farm family in the land will lessen the suffering and economic loss caused by accidents. Start making that effort during National Farm Safety Week. You'll never regret it.
And the message from 1947 from the National Safety Council and Lum and Abner is just as relevant today as it was back then. Be careful. Drive defensively. Arrive alive. Be careful when you're working on the farm or any job that you're doing. That's one thing that hasn't changed in 76 years. Just be careful. All righty. Thank you for tuning in for this final Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. It's a pleasure to be with you. Follow us at our webpage, classicradio.stream, also on Facebook and Twitter. Have yourself a great Friday if you leave us at this time. Our final Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.